What is architecture?
Well, architecture to me is a passion, it's a hobby, it's a business, it's a social art, it's also an artful science. Architecture provides a sense of place and shelter for all types of human activity. And in addition, architecture to me is also the creation of form, structure, and organization in harmony with the environment.
What is architecture? So architecture to me is a crystal ball. It's something that one can look into and understand the actual health of the society. We can understand its sociology, we can understand psychology, finance, economics, and of course art and science as it prevails then. So I think it's, in addition to it being passion, and architecture to me is something personal for me, I think it's a crystal ball to society.
What can architecture do?
Well, architecture is very powerful. Architecture can sustain or destroy the environment. Architecture can create or destroy the democratic space of a city. Architecture, at its best, can create a legacy that reflects culture and traditions.
So I'll say that yes, I'll take from what Manit is saying, architecture is powerful. And architecture is so many things that I'll just focus on one or two. One, from times immemorial, it has been a symbol of power and authority. And whenever civilizations have been changed by force or by choice, architecture has been the symbol of that change. So therefore, I think architecture has power. Architecture can be reflective of what a society is, and architecture ultimately is transformative.
What is your architectural position?
Well, my architectural position is that all design, and when I say design, I sort of encompass everything that goes beyond architecture as well. I think that we are in an environmental emergency, an environmental crisis, and I think that all architecture must respond to the current climate change and environment crisis that we are facing. I think architecture must recognize that resources on the planet are limited, and optimization of these resources is paramount. I believe that architecture must reflect the local traditions, craft and culture of a place. And by extension of that argument, I believe that architecture must be unique. It must not look the same irrespective of location or climate or geographies. And I do believe that architecture must be designed from the perspective of all the users of that architecture itself.
So Manit has captured really the core of the way we practice architecture at Morphogenesis together, and along with all 150 teammates. But in addition to what he has already stated, I think my architectural position would be that architecture has to be inclusive, and it has to be inclusive of a wide gamut of things in society. It has to be philosophically inclusive and reflect how an entire generation thinks. It has to be inclusive of every type of person. Architecture has to be wide, has to be one that is that makes it possible for society to function in every aspect of it, right down from being participative in construction of architecture to those that use it, and for those for whom it will be a legacy. So inclusiveness at the formation of architecture, the usage of architecture, and for architectural thinking to include as wide a section of society as possible is really what my architectural position is.
What is your design method?
So I think we may be a bit similar there, Sonali, because we have a copyrighted design process called SOUL, S-O-U-L. S stands for sustainability. And to us, our design method in sustainability is to look at passive design. We believe in the fact that using passive design and the traditional methods of design, of orientation, of harnessing winds, of looking at preventing thermal gain, etc., we can reduce the energy consumption of buildings by more than 50%, and at times we've achieved up to 75%, and we keep pushing that agenda of the net zero energy building. In the same sustainability, we do believe that water is critical. So is it possible for projects to begin to become net zero in water, in fresh water consumption? And last but not least, in sustainability, we look at net zero waste to landfill. It's these growing landfills have become a critical problem in at least this part of the world. And architecture must be very responsive. Our design method must be very responsive to the fact that we build in a way that we do manage to get net zero waste. The second one, optimization. It is our design method is to look at all the various stakeholders, the various consultants that go into making a project. We believe there are about 13 critical subsystems to any architectural process: structure, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, firefighting, vertical transportation, building management systems, lighting design, etc. It is not really the architect's drawings that make the building. It's the work of all these consultancies, and we have put metrics around each one of them to make sure that using integrated project delivery, each consultancy is highly optimized for the amount of resource that it uses. Third is uniqueness. We believe that all architecture must feel like an architecture of almost somewhere. It's sort of halfway between highly vernacular architecture or on the other hand purely modernist, but trying to make our buildings feel unique by making them contextual to trying to incorporate local craft, local heritage, local materials, and by that let the aesthetic of the building be emergent. And fourth is livability, where we map all the personas that will be interacting with that particular building or that particular piece of architecture. It could be anyone from the owners or the people who work there or the people who clean the building or the people who service the building, and to ensure that from their eyes and their interactions with the building, each part of their livability process, their livability factor is addressed. So it's sort of looking at it from the eyes of the user, but all the users in play. So that's really the design methodology that we use for our projects.
Yes, and in addition to that, I think what I'd like to add is that as a design methodology, we don't like to restrict ourselves to any one particular typology or a specialization, because architecture on planet Earth as we know it is actually experienced by humans in its complete diversity. Whether it is commercial architecture, institutional, landscape, urban design, and or even the architecture of an object to the scale of product design. In fact, now even designing software is called architecture. So I think we work across as many scales and transcend different scales throughout the day. In a way, it kind of emulates the human experience of architecture, but that also allows the mind to think in the way that architecture is experienced. So transcending scale, typology in its maximum expanded sort of way of thinking is really a very integral part of our design thinking that Manit and I, as well as Morphogenesis, follows.